We've been working on solving two-step equations. Now we're going to look at an equation that has to be simplified before we can even start solving. So it's almost like a three-step equation if you look at it that way. Let's take a look. We have 9x minus 5x plus 2 equals negative 10. A lot going on here. Let's draw a line through the equal sign so we can see each side clearly. Now we can see on the left side, that's where our variable x is, but we have two terms that have x with them, the 9x and the 5x. We can't start solving this equation quite yet because we have those two terms with x, and that's going to be really difficult to work with. So, just remember this tip, very important. Make sure that each side of the equation is simplified before you start to solve the equation. So we need to simplify that left side first. Remember, when we're simplifying things, we're making it in a shorter, simpler, easier way to work with. And we can do that by combining like terms. So let's combine the 9x and the minus 5x. That'll give us 4x. So we can write this whole equation over, but simplifying that part to just 4x. Now we have 4x plus 2 equals negative 10. This will be much simpler to work with. Now we just need to undo the 4 and the 2 so we can isolate the x on that left side. Well, remember, we're working with the order of operations backwards, in reverse. So we undo the addition first. So to undo the plus 2, we're going to subtract 2. And do the same thing on the other side. And now we combine like terms to simplify what we have here. The 4x on the left, that will stay the same because there's nothing to combine it with. We already simplified in the beginning. Now the plus 2 and minus 2, they'll just equal out to 0, so they cancel each other out. So all I need to do is just bring down the 4x. We have an equal sign in the middle that always stays the same. And now on the right side, I can combine like terms with the negative 10 and the minus 2. Okay, now remember, when we're combining like terms, it's like we're adding these terms together. So we can say that we're combining a negative 10, and we can treat that as a negative 2. Well, negative 10 plus negative 2 gives us negative 12. Be very careful when you're working with negatives in these equations. Now we just need to undo the 4 so that we can isolate x. 4 is being multiplied by x, so the opposite operation is division. We'll divide by 4 on the left and divide by 4 on the right. On the left side, the 4 over 4 will cancel each other out because they just simplify to 1. It would be 1x, which is just x. So they cancel out, and I have just x left on the left side. Equal sign in the middle. And then on the right, negative 12, don't forget that negative sign, divided by 4 is a negative 3. Now our equation is solved because we have isolated x. We have x by itself on one side of the equal sign and our number, which is our solution, by itself on the other side. Now, we know that it's important to check our answers, especially with an equation that starts out as complex as this one did. So when we check our answer, we're going to take our original equation, not the one that we simplified, because what if we made a mistake with the simplifying part? So to make sure that our answer is correct, we want to make sure it works in the original equation. So I'm going to take the original equation and substitute negative 3 for x. And remember, we have two terms with x, so that's two places where we need to substitute that negative 3 in. And it'll look like this. Instead of 9 times x, we have 9 times negative 3. And then our subtraction sign. Instead of 5 times x, we substituted and got 5 times negative 3, and everything else is the same. Plus 2 equals negative 10. Okay. Now we need to simplify what we have there to see if all that stuff on the left side is equal to negative 10. So we'll follow the order of operations to simplify this in the correct way. Okay. Now we start off with our multiplication. We'll do that before subtraction and addition. So we need to simplify the 9 times negative 3 and the 5 times negative 3. 9 times negative 3 becomes negative 27, and the 5 times negative 3 becomes negative 15. Now notice, I put that negative 15 in parentheses just so that I can notice that negative sign with it. You don't have to do that, but sometimes it's helpful because it just makes that negative sign stand out a little bit more, especially since we have that big old subtraction sign right to the left of it. And then of course the rest of the equation stays the same. We just copy that down. Okay. Now speaking of that negative sign, if you notice there, we have the subtraction sign and then negative 15. Well, that's two negatives together. Two negatives will become a positive. So we can just make that a little easier to work with by just changing that to a plus sign. So now we have negative 27 plus 15 plus 2 that needs to be simplified. Now we just need to combine like terms by adding all that stuff together. We'll start with the negative 27 plus 15. That'll become negative 12. So now we have negative 12 plus 2 equals negative 10. Add the negative 12 plus 2. That will equal negative 10. We have negative 10 equals negative 10. That's a true equation, so that means our answer was correct, that x does equal negative 3 for this equation. Okay, so a lot of steps there, but just focus on one step at a time. With problems like this, you want to first make sure that the equation is simplified, that each side of the equation is simplified, and then go through your steps of solving the equation to isolate your variable. And of course, whenever you notice the little negative signs in there somewhere, just take your time and be careful and make sure that you follow the proper rules for working with negatives.